Ready? Chapter 34. No kisses. It's a beautiful day, Ayla said as the rain poured down on them. Yeah, totally, Yua replied sarcastically. You can feel the cold coming. It's in the air. I never understood the hype about the summer and the warmth. Chilly weather, that's my thing. Wouldn't you agree? She said and nudged him as they walked. No, I hate the cold. I don't understand why my camp had to be the one furthest north. The south is much warmer, he replied in a sour tone. I wanted you to see the beauty of where I came from, she insisted. The south is just as beautiful. Plus, it was so cold that one day it was actually snowing, he countered. So, there's nothing wrong with snow. It was September, he said, frustrated as his voice got increasingly high-pitched. Whatever. Neela would have agreed with me, she said as she continued to enjoy the gloomy day. Time to set up camp, Ayla shouted to the officers. The rain had finally stopped, but the sky was still grey with clouds. As the rest of the officers started working on finding food, Yua parked himself next to Keon and Aino. He cleared his throat. So, I need to apologize for that time that I insulted you? It was more than one time, Keon cut in. Fine. I need to apologize for the times that I insulted you. It was wrong of me, he continued. But you meant what you said, didn't you? Aino asked him. I mean, I shouldn't have said it like that, he responded. Answer my question. He scratched his head. How was he supposed to answer? He had been rude and way out of line, but he hadn't lied. Next time you feel like hurling Aino another insult, I'd suggest you keep quiet instead. Once something is said, you just can't erase it, especially not if you don't even feel sorry about it. Because you don't, do you? You meant every word? Keon asked Yua. At this point he was highly annoyed with the general. I am sorry that I hurt her, Yua said, and he meant it. Who said I was hurt? Aino raised her eyebrows. Isn't that what I'm apologizing for? Yua said, befuddled. You know, one day you say you would die for me. The next day you insult my look straight to my face. How about you make up your mind? I mean, I can still care for you and find you unattractive, right? Yua regretted his words the second they slipped out. You have got to be kidding me, Keon yelled at Yua. That is the worst apology I have ever heard. You actually managed to make everything worse. Aino is a pretty woman. Your opinion is irrelevant. You obviously need glasses. Fuck you, asshole. Yua stared completely speechless at him. He didn't even think that man had the ability to become angry. Keon stared back at the lieutenant general for a good few seconds, until he finally decided he had given him enough of his time. Aino climbed up on his back once again as they headed over to one of the newly lit campfires. Edda walked up to Yua and locked eyes with him. That man is a good man. I like him. He's very respectful. You managed to make him angry, which means you messed up. Take a good look at yourself and fix what is wrong, because no one else is going to do it for you. Oh, okay, I'll do that, Yua said, a bit stunned. Good, she replied coldly. You know, the first time when we met as children, I remember thinking you were so cool, Edda continued. You did? Yua said, surprised. Yes, then you opened your mouth, and all I felt was deep disappointment. Thank you, Yua said sarcastically. You're welcome, she responded with no sarcasm in sight. Aino and Keon sat by one of the campfires. It was already night. The officers would soon be starting the night shift. Keon felt how Aino kept looking at him. What is it? He finally asked her. You think I'm pretty, she smirked at him. To be honest, you're quite the handsome guy yourself. I especially like your eyes. She leaned in closer towards him. He scratched the back of his head, a bit embarrassed. They're just brown. It's the most common eye color. Yes, but your eyes are special though, she answered him. How so? He asked, a bit curious. Because they are yours, and that makes them one of a kind, she said with a smile. Well, aren't you cheesy? He said to her and raised his eyebrows. Oh, come on, it's worth at least a little kiss, she said, looking hopefully at him. He put his hand on her head. No. You're such a tease, she said and pouted. He laughed quietly to himself. Yule had just shot himself in the foot, making it so much easier for him. Opposite the campfire sat Johan and Banke. Hey, Banke, you want to make out? Johan asked him. Before he could even respond, she opened her mouth again. Wait a minute, I don't feel so good, she said as she turned around and vomited behind the log they were sitting on. She turned back towards him. So, as I was saying, you want to make out? He stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious? You just threw up and now you want to make out with me? That's disgusting. Well, aren't you boring? She answered in a sour tone. Atle came and sat down next to Johan. She turned to the Lieutenant General with a grin. Hey Atle, you want to make out? Banke cut in right away. Say no. She just asked me the same thing before she emptied today's dinner behind us. Why would I want to do that? Do you think I've forgotten what you did to our army? How you betrayed us all? Atle looked at her in anger. Whatever. I know you still like me, she said in response as she took another sip of alcohol. I can see that it was a bad idea for us to bring the rest of the alcohol with us. Do you really think you should keep drinking in your current state? Atle shook his head at her. Johan muttered something incomprehensible in response. Lieutenant Colonel Freya walked by the fireplace. Hey Freya, you want to make out? Johan shouted at her. But, she said, bewildered as she stopped in her tracks and looked at the Brigadier General. Knock it off, Johan, Banke said to his friend. You haven't been in contact for 7 years, and the first thing you say to her is this? He turned to the Lieutenant Colonel. Ignore her, Freya. Just keep walking. Okay, Freya said in response, not quite sure what had just transpired. Edda and Banke had the first night shift. Does Johan do that often? Ask people to make out with her? He asked Edda. Only when she's drunk. I don't think she's ever kissed anyone when sober, Edda answered. She told me she mistakenly kissed you one time. Was she drunk then too? She said you refused to talk to her for a week after it. You didn't think it was a mistake? He asked the Major General, quite curious for the answer. Yes, she was drunk, but no, I do think it was a mistake. Pretty sure she was aiming for the guy next to me. He was more than willing. She tripped and fell onto me instead. It wasn't a kiss, just a peck. I just wanted her to apologize for doing it, but she never did. That woman never apologizes for anything. So after a week I just gave up. Ed answered him. Let me guess, that was your first kiss? As I said, it was just a peck, so it doesn't count, she answered coldly. If you need a real kiss, I'm here for you. He opened his arms. Not interested. Well, the offer still stands if you were to change your mind one day. He leaned back and looked at her with a smile.